KFUPM. Before I obviously begin my presentation, and everybody that is on this call, I hope you and your families are keeping safe and well during this difficult time. And I'm saying it's during a difficult time because this will pass and we will start obviously getting things back to normal, which will be good. I'm gonna focus. I'm gonna focus purely on CV and how important this particular aspect is. You shouldn't take your resume lightly. I've have around maybe around 18, 19 years experience, and I've gone through recruitment, and I've seen some good CVs, I've seen some not so good CVs, and I've seen some excellent CVs. So the way I see a CV is, imagine if you're shopping in a mall where you see something in the shop window and you think, okay, that looks interesting. I'm going to take it a step further. I'm going to go and ask some questions about this particular thing that I've seen. Now, your CV is not a type of clothing, but it's there to showcase your personal and professional attributes. So you need to be making sure that you catch attention of the recruiter. So I wanted to just highlight that before we actually get into the actual presentation. This is the agenda for the session. It will last anything between 35 to 40 minutes, and then we will have time for Q&A. So we will talk about the CV. What is an effective resume? What do I see as an effective resume? If I'm a recruiter, what do I look for? We will look at the types of mistakes that have been made, and I have to be absolutely honest with you. When I was younger and climbing the ladder of the corporate world, I would have made some mistakes, which obviously I've kind of mastered, and I don't make them mistakes. The do's and don'ts, there are things that you need to do on your CV, and there are things that you should not do on your CV at all. I will obviously give you some advice regarding you being graduates as well, the type of layout, and we will talk about the types of questions in an interview. People do say that, it's difficult to actually prepare, but I will share some hints and tips with you where you can actually find it easier and anticipate the questions. So I will move forward. So here we go. So when you talk about your CV, I have actually seen, a CV that is around 10 to 15 pages long. You are not at that stage yet, but I hope you would refrain from doing anything like a 10 to 15 page CV, no matter, how you get in your professional experience. Your CV should not be more than 2 pages long. Being a student, you can actually get away with probably a 1-page CV. What you have to look at is you're there to catch the attention of the recruiting manager, the hiring manager. Whenever you apply for a role, there is a problem within inside the organization where they need professionals like yourself to fix and become a solution. So whenever you send your CV, make sure you're taking this into consideration, that I am there to fix a problem for this organization. Okay, so your CV layout should have, be very, very specific. You should have your personal information, a paragraph. Now, I cannot emphasize how important this is. Your kind of paragraph about yourself should be showcasing your skills, should be showcasing what projects you've worked on within university. It may showcase, you may be, involved in sports, and I would obviously talk a little bit about how this can be transferred with inside the workplace. Even when we talk, about football, it's a team sport. So, you as players, what happens when some of your players are not performing? You're not going to shout at them. You're going to motivate them. You're going to say, you're good, you're better than this. So these are all skills that you can transfer from the football field inside to the workplace. Your education experiences is something extremely important. We will talk about other skills. We will talk about a little bit about professional certification. I will highlight that for a few minutes when I'm talking about the CV. If you do have any part-time work or you've done any voluntary work, these are good. And then we will talk about your interest and hobbies. And I will be sharing some things about interest and hobbies later on, because, the most interesting things that I see on a CV is, going to the movies. You know, if I see that a lot, so we have to obviously try and think a little bit outside the box and put something interesting in there if that is what you do in your part time in your pastime. So as I mentioned, um, it really is very, very important to catch the attention of the recruiter. And you know, how do you do that? Well, there are a number of scenarios, which again I will talk about later on. Um, you know, I said before, there is a problem, or you know, there is a problem because the hiring or the company are looking to hire for a particular role, and you could be that potential solution. So you always have to bear this in mind to making sure that you are giving your resume the attention it requires. You know, this is something that you really need to focus on. And one of the good things, and an idea and a suggestion for you. So there are many things that you will do throughout your kind of academic career. Now, what you should be doing as a kind of help and support is on your laptop, if you have on your Word document, is just highlight these. So maybe in 2017 you were part of a project where you are handling a case on engineering or something like that. Now, what you need to do is highlight this information. What I'm not saying to you is that you write a paragraph. This is a reminder for you to go back to and say, okay, I can actually add this in my CV. Because what actually happens is, as human beings, we can actually forget about some of the important projects and work that we've done in the past. And what happens is when we're putting our CV together, we will sit and we would look and we would actually scratch our head and think, what else have I done? So it's good to have a Word document where you can bullet point some of your experiences of what you've done over the past years. You know, if you've got a great memory, then, you know, you still may want to do this because it's only human nature where we could forget some of these important points. Um, Again, we would look at your previous job history and we would try and hyperlink as well, because nowadays CVs are sent electronically, or your actual CV is actually elaborated on your LinkedIn profile as well. You know, you can include a photo if you like, that's entirely up to you. And you know what I'm sharing there when it says, you know, a HR recruiter would look at your CV from, you know, 20 to 40 seconds, you know, this is how it is out there in the real world. You know, you know, whenever you're applying for a role, there are going to be quite a few applications. So you need to be making sure that whatever you are putting in your CV is the best that you can add in there, and it's articulated and put in a professional way. You know, I cannot emphasize the professional statement, how good it needs to be, because the professional statement will be just under your information, your name and email, and then you would get into your professional statement. So, you know, I cannot emphasize that more, and we will talk about that going through the presentation. So again, I would like to talk about the types of mistakes. No, and I've done this before. The first point, I remember doing this, and I think it was around 2002, and I was automatically just applying for roles with the same CV. And then, you know, later on, as you kind of grow old, people say, well, you know, you need to tailor it. You can't obviously send the same CV to a role that, you know, you're looking at. You know, if you're looking at being a, you know, a finance manager, it has to be different from something else. You know, if you're looking at something of a HR manager, you know, you can't send the same. So this is something that you need to make sure that you need to do is to tailor the job that you're going to. And again, we will talk a little bit about this, how you're going to tailor your CV towards that job. I talked about, you know, I've seen like a 10 or 15 page CV. Usually when a recruiter gets a big CV like that, I would say the probability of them looking at it in any detail is very minimal, unless you actually have some relationship already through that organization. Um, Again, people will often focus on colors and making, you know, their CV in a way where, you know, it's really nice looking to them. But you know what you also need to think about is say to your friends and your colleagues, and you share your CV with them. You should say, look, if you're looking at my CV, how does this come across to you? And usually friends and family will be absolutely honest with you. You know, they will let you know if it's actually great, or they'll actually say, well, you know what, there's more focus on colors here and less focus on you as a person. So I would always make sure that whenever you put your CV together, is make sure friends, family, you know, your students are all, that you can actually have that ability to share it with them. Spelling and grammar, you know, this is a very high probability where when recruiters do see poor spelling and grammar, they usually put that to the rejection pile. What they're looking at is, if you cannot spend time yourself on putting your CV together with immaculate spelling and grammar, then these mistakes could happen inside the organization. So I cannot emphasize it enough that your spelling and grammar needs to be 100%. So check it, and keep on checking it until you know that it's absolutely perfect. Making sure that your information of your contact, your email addresses is up to date for sure. Again, the personal statement, when we're talking about it being vague, it's maybe 1 or 2 sentences. You know, talk about it with a nice paragraph. I'm not talking about a full half a page paragraph, but you need to showcase your ability. You know, I'm a team player. I've got a professional experience. I have some experience with inside my organization. I'm a great communicator. I've worked in teams in the past. I'm a great listener. You know, what a recruiter also needs to understand is that you're a great communicator and you're happy to work in teams. So, you know, there's very rarely where you'll be working on your own to begin with. So, you know, working in teams and being a great communicator is obviously very, very good for the recruiter to know. You know, this is I put a point in there that, you know, some people may lie, and the statistics show that it could be around 50%, even higher. It's something that you should not do. Again, having a photo on your CV, you can put that on your CV. I'm actually born and raised in the UK. We never actually have photographs of ourselves while submitting for a role. But I know in the region, you know, you can add it. So if you feel comfortable to add a photograph, you're more than welcome to do that. Okay, so I want to just take a few minutes of your time now to focus on the do's. So what we need to do, it says here, construct your CV with the prospect employer in mind. So we need to be making sure that we're highlighting and we're looking at the job description so we can highlight that in our CV. And even in your personal statement, you can bring some of these key words into your personal statement. So make sure that you're highlighting this. They may be saying we're looking for a fresh graduate, team player, you know, this amount of skills. We may be looking at a GPA of this. So again, this is something that is very, very important. And it's very, very easy not to do it. You know, we just have, as human beings, we think, okay, I know what I want to do. But we need to be making sure that we're taking that prospect into mind, where we're focusing on the JD, and we can highlight that in our CV. Your experience needs to be mentioned to avoid gaps. Again, when you climb up the corporate ladder, whatever whatever experience you have, whether it's short or long, please do make sure that you highlight it, because usually when there's a gap, the actual recruiter will ask, you know, what were you doing between this time? So it's always good to highlight that, because as a recruiter, they want to make sure they're filling all the gaps as possible. So again, tailor your CV with the prospect job in mind. So again, you know, if they're looking for engineer, they're looking for finance, something procurement, a junior analyst, make sure that you're looking at the JD, the job description for sure. So this is actually key. Take your time. You know, what you want to do is whenever you're sending your CV, you're not just there to send your CV to many organizations. You want to make it count. You know, spend time on it. You know, if you're spending time on your CV and you're updating your CV to meet that that job particular profile, then that is good. That is actually not good. That is excellent. So make sure that you always have this in mind. Again, as you climb up the corporate ladder, look to have between 5 to 7 bullet points per organization. Again, it's not good to put a paragraph, because again, the actual recruiter has to read the paragraph. If you put it into bullet points, it's great, because then the actual recruiter can ask you about, okay, you said that you've got great communication skills. You worked in a team. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? You're making it easy for the recruiter to make a judgment on you, whether you are the right person to say, let's bring Mohammed in for a conversation. And when you put it into a kind of a paragraph, it makes it difficult. So you're there to make it easy as possible for the recruiter. That's what you have to always think in mind, that you're making it easy for the recruiter to actually look at my CV and make an opinion, about you, about myself, if I'm suitable for the role. And again, it's always interesting for you to view your experience in a really good light. Like I say, you as students, you're at a great university. KFUPM is a wonderful university. You will have many things that you've done over the past so many years. So you need to highlight that, and you need to be making sure that you're not nervous about showcasing your ability in your CV. I put a point on there, put your name and address on every page. And, usually, if you've got a one-page CV, that's fine. But when recruiters maybe printing your CV out and you've got maybe a two-page CV and they accidentally drop the pile of CVs, they're not going to get your second page. So this is why on the bottom, on the footer of Word, it's good to put your name in there. So if they do drop it or they do misplace it, they can easily find your second page. And again, this is something that I talk about a lot is the positive language that great team player. I'm a motivated individual. I take on feedback very well. My team members would be describing me as a very persistent hard worker, but open to suggestions. So these are all things that you can think about. And if you don't have a professional email address, then I would say change it. I'm putting, an email address there saying, that email address that you can see, that is not professional. And you might think it's, strange, but I have actually seen this, these type of not professional emails. So make sure your email address is totally professional. Okay, the don'ts. So here we go. So we have lying on your CV. And again, we are all ethical. We are all ethical here. However, this has come up before, and it's something that you should refrain from doing. And I know that you would, but I would just like to highlight this because these are the type of things that come across in a CV. So never lie. Only put the skills that you've got, your correct GPA, your correct work experience, your correct years of when you've worked as well. So if you've been at an organization for 3 years, you put the month and date when you started, and you put the month of date when you actually leave the organization. Okay. If you have worked at different locations around the world, please put that in there in your job experience. It just shows the recruiter already from a young age that you're open to change, and you have obviously worked in different locations. Don't forget locations. There will be a tendency to maybe think differently and do things differently. So it's good to highlight that. Again, this is something that I would like to share. Don't use expressions like duties include, because this is actually CV jargon. Okay, so you want to refrain from that, and you want to be using that in a different way, which I obviously explained, and I will explain in another slide as well. So again, refrain from doing that, because that's the old CV kind of jargon, and we need to kind of step back from that. Again, as well, is try to avoid technical jargon. Whatever role that you're going for, you want to be making sure that the recruiter understands what experience you have, what qualification you have, and what type of soft skills and experience that you have as well. So you need to be making sure. Obviously, when I've looked at CVs in the past, people are going for finance role, people going for managerial role. They would use technical kind of abbreviations that I have very limited knowledge about. So they want to make it, again, that's not making it easy for the recruiter. So the recruiter wants to make sure that they have got the right person for the right role. So again, it's making it easy for them. So keep that in mind, please. Again, you can add your school name on there, but mostly recruiters are worried about and want to understand which particular university you have graduated from. So, for me, the way I see it, the school, I'm not saying that the schooling is not important. On your CV, it's not the most important bit, because people want to know where you graduated from regarding university. So, do keep this in mind. So I want to just focus a little bit regarding your CV, and some other advice that I would like to give you. And it's really, really important to develop your soft skills. I cannot emphasize this more, and I cannot emphasize it enough. Your qualifications, your professional certifications will get you up to a certain height, but you need to have the actual soft skills, the interpersonal skills, to actually showcase that in an interview. This is important. This is exceptionally important. The thing that I always say is, try and put a SWOT analysis, your stress, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Try and do that early, because everybody has their strengths and everybody has their weaknesses. So make sure that you highlight this from day one. And also, as well, this is the type of thing that recruiters would love to hear. To say, look, I've got some great strengths, and I've also got some weaknesses that I've been working on over the past 2 years, because that shows the recruiter that you are totally self-aware individual. You're not saying to the recruiter that I know everything, Kalas, I don't need to learn anything. You're giving off a really good signal that you are a very good individual that knows your ability, and you're focusing more on your weaknesses. So I did highlight that regarding the strengths and weaknesses. um, make the time count. I cannot emphasize this more. And I have worked with a couple of students. I did a presentation similar to this back in April, and I've had a few students come back to me to say, Rishi, I put my CV together. What do you think of it? And I've gone back with several emails. So if you need me, if you need my help and support that way, I would be happy to do that. Um, what I also want to do is talk a little bit about professional certification. Again, I'm from the IMA, and we actually have the world global certification called the Certified Management Accountant. Um, Whatever certification you choose, I would definitely advise you to choose a certification, whether it's the CMA, the CPA, the ACCA, the CIA. You should go for a certification, because as graduates, you need to differentiate yourself with other professional certification. You know, 10 years ago, if you look at having a professional certification, it was a plus. Now, if you look at 10 years on, it's a must. Recruiters are looking for the best of the best of the best. So if you look at the CPA and the CMA. So the CPA is usually for audit, kind of taxation and compliance. Now the CMA is a two-part exam which covers 12 core competencies. The core competencies could be internal control, technology, planning, budgeting, forecasting, decision making, internal control, cost management. So these are all things that you can actually study at a very high level on the CMA, and it's a two-part paper as well. So it means that it's a fairly robust paper, but it's not paper after paper. So again, what I would say to you, definitely do your research. The CMA has been going for close to 50 years now, and we are growing phenomenally in around the world regarding the certification. As a CMA, you're a decision maker, and you're understanding how the business operates. Obviously, if you're audit and taxation and compliance, you're on one side. But as a CMA, you become a strategic partner of the organization. You're not providing the numbers, you're running the numbers, and you're running the show there. So you would understand what HR is doing, what procurement is doing, what sales are coming in. So again, the CMA is from the top. That would look at the organization from the top down. So I would definitely emphasize to yourself to go for some professional certification for sure. I hope your decision is the CMA, but we understand that there are many certifications out there, and the beauty about the certifications is, as an organization, IMA appreciates all certification. We are not here to say CMA is the only way forward. It's the best certification. From a personal point of view, the CMA is a wonderful certification, and from my side, it is the best certification for certified management accountant. So if that is something that you would like to do, then I'm sure we can have a separate discussion on that later on. You can also email me, no problem at all. So I wanted to share that with you because there are thousands and thousands and thousands. In fact, globally, there are millions of probably students that graduate, every single year. So it's all about differentiating yourself. You're an undergrad and you graduate. Maybe there's a million of you, and then you look at if you're graduated with a professional certification, that actually comes down to maybe 600,000 or 700,000. Then you're obviously looking at maybe an MBA. So again, what you're doing is you're putting yourself in there of that bracket. There are a lot of students that will obviously graduate, and with having professional certification, maybe an MBA, you're in that particular pool of students that is kind of niche. Obviously, you're upskilling yourself all the time, so that is something that is very, very important. And these professional certifications, recruiters don't look at it lightly. They look at it as, this person is hungry, motivated, really looking to enhance their career, their skill set. So they would look at this in great detail. And it could be a professional certification that gets you the all important call. I certainly know, and I certainly see a lot more certifications now on CVs that I saw maybe 10 or 15 years ago. It's definitely catching and has been catching for over the last few years. So I wanted to share that. With you because it's really very important. The CV layout. Okay, the CV layout. So you're going to have your information on the top. Okay, this is going to be your personal information. It will have your name, it will have your email, and it will have your number, your mobile number. You will then have a personal profile. And this is the thing that I need to emphasize is your personal profile. That really good paragraph that you're going to have there. You can have it in bullet points as there, stated there, but you can also have it as maybe 4 or 5 sentences, but a nice paragraph. And this showcases, this is actually providing, excuse me, this is providing a summary of your past involvements. So whether that is at a university level or whether that is at a corporate level or experience. So you need to be making sure that you're highlighting this at every single opportunity. If they're looking at some, if you might look at the job description, or it might say, this is a very fast-paced environment, you want to put something in there that catches the attention to say that I've handled multiple projects. So you're used to the fast pace. So you want to be making sure psychologically that you're putting information in the personal statement that is coming from the job description. So the recruiter looks at that and goes, okay, yeah. And they would actually know the job description inside out. So when you put this information in there, they actually would see, oh, okay, and they can see this information. They can see that word in there. It's a powerful word in there. If you've worked in multiple projects, then please highlight it. That's what you need to do. It's all about you're building a picture of yourself. So whatever you put in there, it's all about you. Like I said, and I can't stress this enough, it's all about making an impact as you can. So you'll have your personal statement there, and then you would have your professional certification, and then you would have your education towards the bottom, and the certification you've got. And whenever you become, or I hope inshallah you choose the CMA route, that is the CMA credential that you would put after your name. So where it has in the CV it says Joe Smith, he would then put their CMA, Certified Management Accountant. Just like when
if I could just jump in,
Yes.
Because the students that are with us are all the backgrounds. So we have the HR, we have MIS, have finance. So it applies to all of them when we talk about certifications, when you're giving these tips, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, thank you for that, Ihab. Yeah, so absolutely. It implies it applies to multiple sections of any organization. Like I mentioned, procurement, HR, sales, everything. So that is something that you need to be mindful of. You have your experience there, and then your education, but please do make sure that your CV is you're using a reasonable font, usually Arial or Caliber. These are the most common ones. Don't focus too much on colors. Make it easy for the recruiter. That is what you want to do. That is what you're there for, is to make it easy for the recruiter to say, okay, yeah, this Ahmed's experience. Yeah, I can see, very nicely structured. He's got a team player. He's worked in groups. He's worked on multiple projects. Okay, let's obviously put this in the accept pile. So that's how you want to be looking at it. Again, I talked about interest and hobbies. If you're a sports person, music, you like reading, you maybe like going to the movies and stuff like that, then please add that. Again, I talked about anything that you're part of a team on a social front, on a sports level. These are all transferable skills. So always have that in mind. Like I said, I would like to use the example where I got asked a question to say, well, Rishi, I work as part of basketball. How do I transfer that in the workplace? So I said, okay, basketball is five players, correct? Because I used to play basketball a long time ago. So I actually have some information. So I said, okay, let me give you an example. I said, okay, you've just been taken off by your coach, and they've obviously they put another player on there. What does the coach say to you? The coach will obviously give you positive words. He's not gonna fold his arms and say, well, didn't have a very good game. No, he would actually try and motivate you to set you up for the next few minutes of the quarter of the basketball. So these are things that you need to take in consideration. And what you would do as a part of that team is, if your team member is not performing, you're not going to shout at them. You're not going to shout at them, because you know their ability. So this, you would say to them, look, what you're doing there, you may need to go across a little bit to stop that person coming on. You're better than this, and you've got the ability to do this. Now, what you're doing there is you're providing communication skills, and you're providing motivation to your team. Now, can that not be transferred in the workplace? 100% it can. So always think about these type of things. Whether you're in a project, you're doing some coursework. These are all things that you can transfer. So have this in mind. So anything that you do outside of work, think of it about how that can transfer in the workplace. And 9 times out of 10, even probably 10 times out of 10, everything can be transferred in the workplace regarding the soft skills side. Okay, I want to just talk about, I do see this, and sometimes hear this a lot about, how do we prepare? What type of questions are going to be coming up? And you know what? 9 times out of 10, you can anticipate the questions that you're looking to get. So this is very, very important. Is all about researching the company. Now, I'm not saying that you need to spend several hours to research the company, but what I would do is I would research it well enough where you know some of their locations, you know exactly what they do, you know the year that they were established, obviously which countries that are in. Again, you need to be making sure. So if you were the recruiter and you ask the question to say, okay, can you tell me something about my organization? If somebody sits there and gives you a very, very vague answer, you're going to look at it and think, well, no, that's not great. You're spending the time going through that person's CV, bringing them for an interview, and the person has not done any research. So that wouldn't go favorable for you. So again, research is good. And if you know anybody that works for that particular organization, you might have some friends, you might have some colleagues in LinkedIn, reach out to them to say, look, I've got an interview in 3 weeks. Can you tell me a little bit more about the organization? I know this much about the organization. So LinkedIn is a fantastic, fantastic tool that's been going for, well over a decade now, that you can actually build your network. And for things like this, don't feel frightened to actually research people in the organization. If you're finding out a little bit about the recruiter, again, you're making that kind of time to understand the person that you're speaking to. So if you want to take it as a next step and find out about the recruiter, that is also a very, very positive step. So again, when we look at the review, it says here, review the job description. So every particular role has a job description, and usually 9 times out of 10, the questions that you get asked are from the job description. As an example, they will say, and it will say, okay, this particular role, you'll be working with another 4 fresh graduates maybe, or people just coming into the business. How would you kind of adopt yourself into that particular team? You did say in your CV that you're a great team player, so tell me a little bit about this. So look at the JD and anticipate the type of questions that could come up in the interview. Okay, we talk about communication skills and we talk about teamwork. Now, these are the 2 favorable ones for now when you look at students and fresh graduates. This is what the companies are looking for, along with your undergraduate, your GPA, and if you have gone down the professional certification route, this is good. One of the things that that I have to highlight, whenever you do a professional certification, your discussion with that recruiter is at a different level from a non-certification holder. Okay, so your chances of promotion would be far greater than a non-certification holder. So these are things that you have to take into consideration. Your knowledge and how you obviously look at things in an analytical way are different. So again, you need to be making sure that when you're looking at professional certification, you're doing it for the right reasons. I'm not here to force this on you. I'm talking about experience, and I'm talking about what kind of companies are looking for and what they're going to be looking for more aggressively over the next 5 and 10 years. So that's something that you want to be looking at as well. Again, we talked about examples outside, and I used that example of the basketballer. So again, you can bring anything that in there. Again, if you're not you're not part of anything, or you're not doing, then I would suggest you kind of start getting involved in this, because it's important. It really is important. I cannot emphasize it enough when I talk about soft skills. It's really, really important for sure, because don't forget, as you kind of embed yourself in the organization, they want to be looking at you as, he's a great person, he's always on time, he takes on the ability, he coaches other people, he's very positive individual. Whenever as students, we can get under pressure as well. As we climb up that corporate ladder, there are going to be some pressures and frustrations, and what you don't want to do is ever show that to your kind of boss, your direct report, the person that you're reporting to. Even though inside emotionally we might be finding it tough, try and portray that in a positive way, and make sure your behavior is coming across in a positive way, even though that you may be stressed up here. So this is also something very, very important, that you need to be adopting yourself on how you kind of go around the organization and get things done. So these are the possible questions that usually always come up. 9 times out of 10, the recruiter will always say to you, can I get, give me a summary of your profile. So this will also come up. Again, you know, if you've saved a company money, then all organizations will be very, very happy if you can save their organization money. So they will ask you to talk about it, you know. Again, I said about professional certification. It's something that you need to be looking at. Do your research where you want to be. Like I said, the CMA is very business oriented, and you are the decision maker inside the organization once you climb up that corporate ladder, for sure. You know, these are skills that will stay with you for the rest of your life. However, you need to be working with them. You know, the journey will be very nice for you as students, for sure. There will be a few obstacles in the way, but these are obstacles that you can easily pass. There's no problem at all. With the right skill set. So you need to be making sure you have the right skill set. You know, describe the difficult situation that you've had in work, or describe when you've worked in a team and you've had to go through a difficult situation, what type of emotions, what type of things that you've gone through. So these are things that you can talk about. And again, don't be shy to talk about your strengths and weaknesses in a very positive light. As humans, we openly share our strengths to say, yes, strengths, but you know, weaknesses, we would talk about it in a different way. Maybe our body language would change. So again, let that not happen. Keep your same tone. You know, whenever you're getting called to that all important interview, you would sit there with your hands probably on your lap, or maybe on the table, because actually how you sit in a interview actually showcases the type of individual you could be. So, you know, sometimes people will sit in their chair, but they will come across where they will lean forward. I wouldn't recommend that, because on the kind of the emotional side, it means that you are a person that you want to get things done very, very quick. So I would say just sit there with your hands on your lap, and that shows that you're kind of an open individual. And again, this is another one that we talked about, describing when you've worked in a team. So these are just some questions that you can anticipate. You can anticipate more questions for sure, because the more questions that you anticipate is the more questions that you're physically prepared for. So the more questions that you're prepared for is better, for sure. And like I said, if you're going to get called for that all important interview, preparation is the key. Okay. So again, if you're looking to even practice the interview, some of these questions where your friends, your colleagues are going to be the recruiter and they're going to ask you, there's actually no harm in doing that at all. There's no harm whatsoever. You know, being prepared for an interview is better than being not prepared for an interview. So these are you know, things that I've talked about that are very, very key, very, very important, and they will be around for a number of years. So this is something that you know, please take on board. And that's my presentation. So I think we've had around maybe 35-40 minutes. Really appreciate it. And now I'll, you know, open it up for questions, please.
Thank you so much, Rishi. As always, useful, very useful tips, and I hope the students take on these tips. We're recording this session, so for the students that came in late, we'll upload it on a YouTube channel, and I'll share it with you, Rishi, also, so you could revisit the whole session. Also, for those of you who want to, you know, rewatch it, pick up some tips on how to enhance your CV and some interview tips. Okay, so we'll just take a few minutes. If you have a question, just unmute yourself, ask the question, and we'll take it from there.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Rishi. Thank you, Mr. Rehab. Just have a little question because regarding the window of testing the CMA. I mean, the period that should take must be between the two papers. How long is it?
Thank you, Ali, for the question, first of all. So the CMA, you need to pass both parts in 3 years. And you have 3 testing windows. per year. So in total, you've got 9 testing windows, 9 opportunities to pass. 3 years is, if you look at 3 years, 3 years you can do an MBA. Usually for students, it's anything between 8 and 15 to 16 months on average to pass the CMA.
Okay. And if I did the first part, how should I write it in the my CV?
So what you would do, again, Ali, it's a good question. We would give you a transcript to say you've passed part 1 of the CMA. So again, this is actually good because you can highlight that in your CV. You can say part 1 passed, and I'm preparing and going forward for part 2. So again, the recruiter knows that you're going for the CMA.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Rich.
Welcome, Ali.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Yes, I am Ahmed Khalifa.
Hi, Ahmed.
I have been in a talk with one of our instructors regarding if my GPA was low, the overall GPA, and my major GPA is high. So he told me that if I put both of them and can speak to the recruiter why my overall GPA is low, or why they are so far from each other, these 2 GPAs. But the issue is that not all the recruiter will give me the time to speak, to explain why this is low, why this is high. So what do you prefer for each student, to put the GPA, the overall GPA, or just the major GPA?
I think, Ahmed, thank you again. Thank you for the question. I think I mentioned it. It's always good to highlight your experience in a positive way. You know, if you've got 2 parts of a GPA, then why can't you put it as an average? Why can't you put it together? You know, I don't know how. Obviously, you said you've got two sets of GPA, correct?
I will say it. For example, for me, before I came to KBS college, the business school college, I was an engineering student. So all my GPAs there are so not very bad, not very good. So when I came here, and my performance is good, but still my GPA is not improving that much.
Ahmed, if I can just jump in, just to explain, Leno, this is different from university to university. Rishi, in our school, there's a major GPA which reflects, if you're an accounting student, is the GPA of all your accounting courses.
Okay. Yeah, I know.
Other
but, like for example, when I applying for the co-op, one of them asked me about only the major GPA. He didn't mention the overall
comprehensive. Yeah, the comprehensive GPA takes into account all the classes, even if you transfer it.
Yes.
Okay.
So I have the right to speak that the overall GPA is not reflecting my performance in the university.
Yeah, this is a kind of a tricky one. It's difficult because when you write your GPA in there and you submit your CV, Ahmed, it's down to the recruiter to look at that and think, okay, does this individual have enough skills? Now, what he said in his hobby is that he's trying to work on different aspects to bring that GPA up. So again, even though you may think it's a low GPA, what are you doing about it? Are you focusing on other skills to maybe bring that GPA up? So again, this shows the recruiter in a different light. So the way I see, I'm more of a person to see what is this individual doing. I would like to see, GPA is obviously one element, but I'm also interested in the performance of the individual. So if you're focusing on other areas to maybe improve your GPA, then me as a recruiter, I would be interested to speak to you. That's my own personal choice.
This is especially when you are applying for a job and it is automatic. So you just they need only the overall GPA. So they did not give you the right to speak. So when you are just below their need their GPA they want, so they will ignore you. Either if you can speak and explain, or you have many skills they need. So but by the only GPA they ignore you, and they didn't give you the right to even to speak. This is what I mean.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure there are some companies that may look at that criteria, but you know, the way I see it, you should be trying to get feedback, and you should always actually say to the recruiter to say, if there's possibility, if you are not successful for the role, you want to try and get hold of that person that has looked at your CV. If they're purely looking at the GPA and that is their criteria, then you know that's what you have to take. But if you look at multinational organizations, excuse me, if you're looking at multinational organizations, they are not just looking at GPA for sure. They're looking at the performance of that individual as a whole. They're looking at a GPA and they're looking at your other skills that you can bring to the role. Don't forget, GPA is showing them your academic ability. It's not showing your competency level of working inside the organization, how you're going to be fitting in with the team, how you're going to get the job done. So, you know, it's a very tricky question. You know, I know that, you know, some organizations probably in Saudi Arabia and the UAE will focus more just on GPA. So I'm sorry, I can't give you a definitive answer, but I would always try and say that, look, give me an opportunity and to try and speak to them and to try and say, look, this is the situation with myself. If they're purely looking at GPA, then that's their motivation to do that. But I know multinationals are not just looking at GPA for sure.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ahmed.
Hello.
Mohammed, hello.
Hello. First of all, thank you so much for this presentation and tips.
You're welcome,
And
Mohammed.
my question is, what catches your attention or eyes at the first glance when you look at the CV?
That's a good question, Mohammed. That's a good question. I
Thank
will have to just take a bit of a thought. Now, I think in my presentation, you know, I've definitely talked about the personal statement. And again, when you have your personal statement and your professional certification, now as a recruiter, I'm looking at your CV from the top and I'm looking at the way down. If you're looking at, obviously in Arabic, it'll be from the right to left. That's absolutely fine. But I'm looking at you as a person where what kind of ability do you have for this particular role? This is the thing that I'm looking for. I'm looking for hunger. I'm looking for desire. I'm looking for motivation. And if you're involved in certifications, you're involved in different groups, different activity, it shows me as a person, Mohammed, that you are not just there sitting around, you know, for your great results. You are there going to improve yourself. I would be looking, if I was a recruiter, I would be looking for more and more of the individual. So, you know, it's a great question. For sure, you need to be looking at your academic ability. You need to be looking at your projects ability that you work with your colleagues inside the university. And again, soft skills, again, this is very important. And the professional certifications, because the soft skills and professional certifications, they go hand in hand. So you need to be looking at that. So I would be looking at lots of things that I've just mentioned to you about the actual student. And if I've got a student that is involved in many things, certifications, is involved in projects, involved in a sports team as well, this type of thing is very interesting for me, and I would be inclined to speak to that individual. So that, I hope that answers your question.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mohammed.
Hi, I have a question regarding the references part that's usually in the bottom of the CV or the resume.
Yes.
Some teachers or professors in the university tell us that we do not need to provide the references and just say the references will be provided upon request. Is that a good thing to do, or should I just put my references?
It's actually either or. Now, as you kind of climb up the corporate ladder, and I'm not saying that you're not going to go for a very, a very senior role at this stage. So you're going to be climbing up the corporate ladder. You can actually, it can go either way. You can actually put references available on request, or you can actually put the names of the people on there to say these are my references. So it just shows that you're open. And you're transparent with this. So it depends how you feel. I see a lot of CVs where it says references on request. I see very rarely where it actually shows the references already. So if you want to include them and your referees are happy to give you a reference, then there's no harm in to include it at all from my perspective.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome, Abdul Rahman.
Any other questions, Shalab? Rishi, I have a question, because the students will be going through a series of certifications during the summer. These are not professional certifications, but these are ones that top schools are offering for some skills and specifically for their majors. Is this something that they should also include, especially as undergraduate students with limited experience?
Yeah, 100%. And especially you've just highlighted something there, that you said that these are from very reputable universities. So for sure they should highlight them. And again, this is painting in a really, really positive picture for the recruiter to say that, look, this person is really, really hungry, motivated, all the attributes. So definitely for sure you should be highlighting this wherever possible.
Thank you. Guys, any more questions? Okay, I guess that's it. Thank you so much, Rishi. A pleasure as always.
Pleasure, my pleasure, totally my pleasure, no problem.
Thank you so much.